I have titled this retreat, The Place of Encounter, Liturgy and Life. As we look at the liturgical hum, we have talked about it as a moment or opportunity for encounter within the liturgy. And so these last couple of days, we've been looking more at liturgy and the liturgical homily. These next 2 days, I want to look at the second half of that, the place of encounter in life. So from liturgy to life, and then from life to liturgy. Liturgy is sort of like when in the ocean, the waters all gather up and then they come to a crescent and you have the source and the summit and it crashes out and goes into life. So we'll talk a little bit about the mystery of encounter in everyday life. And I'd like to start as a prayer, reading this poem by Gerard Manley Hopkins. So however you listen to poetry, with your eyes open or your eyes closed, just take 30 seconds and help yourself to be well disposed toward the Holy Spirit. The world Would you guys give me other mics? I'll try to do it with the mic. Can you hear me in the back, Deacon Darrell?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. The world is charged with the grandeur of God. It will flame out like shining from shook foil. It gathers to a greatness like the ooze of oil crushed. Why do men then now not wreck his rod? Generations have trod, and all is seared with trade, bleared, smeared with toil, and wears man's smudge and shares man's smell. The soil is bare now, nor can foot feel being shod. And for all this, nature is never spent. There lives the dearest freshness deep down things. And though the last lights off the black west went, O morning at the brown brink eastward springs. Because the Holy Ghost over the bent world broods with warm breast and with bright wings. Lord, we start again this day with you, shining, flashing. You dispel our darkness. You flood us with your fragrance. You show yourself to us. And so we offer ourselves in response to your revelation. That knowledge you give us, we have the freedom to respond. So we give you our yes. Our yes to this day, our yes to your presence. We are here and we are yours. And so for this day, we pray together as Jesus taught us. Our Father.
Hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done. On earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. And forgive us our trespasses. As we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
So I guess my question as we get started is, our gospel reading is about light. Where have you been seeing light?
When you open up the closet to light,
And if you don't shut it and you roll over in the bed, it turns on too. Yes, yes. And for me and a few others, the TV has turned on about 4 a.m.
Oh, yeah.
for some reason.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Anybody have that experience besides?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Oh. At the hotel that we stayed at Saturday night, because we couldn't stay here, the coaches, all the hotel rooms were in my name, and the TV said, "Hello, Carla." 8 rooms. Hello, Carla. Where else have you seen light?
Over the water.
Over the water? This was a picture from last night. It didn't quite capture it.
The stars, last night I was walking in between the trees, you could see Orion, pretty.
The people, so many people have talked to that have had the light.
So a metaphorical life. Yeah.
I think I saw that light this morning at the conversation we had while we were enjoying breakfast.
Because I gave you another 15 minutes.
That's a bright light.
Yeah, bright light. It got brighter. Anybody else? Where have you seen some light? Is the full moon still out? Or has it gone down?
Pretty full room, yes.
Because the day before yesterday, it was still out. The picture that I have. The picture that I have. Maybe this better is going down here. Anyway, the previous picture, the first year I was here, the moon was coming up at 6 a.m, coming up over the dock, and that's where I got that picture. Okay, well, this is gonna be an interesting day, isn't it?
Can you do that on the computer?
Right.
Just hit that button, hit the next.
I can do it on the computer, yes, without the clicker. Yeah, that was the first time I'd ever been here. That's what I saw at 6 a.m. Yes, Brother Chepe.
In Spanish, and I think in the Bible it's written that way. When a woman is in labor, we normally say dio a luz. That's it. That's beautiful. In English, I think it's paper, but in
Yeah.
Spanish kind of captures the moment where
Give it to me again.
dio a luz, when the baby sees
Dia, what's the first word? Dia?
dio that. For the birth.
Okay.
So the woman dio a luz. I will be.
So the baby suddenly sees the
So that's
light.
when the first time the baby goes out of the mother and
Yeah.
experiences life for the first time. So
Yeah.
Mary gave birth to Jesus. In Spanish, it says, "Y dio la luz a un niño."
Ah, okay. Well, this might be TMI, but I remember being pregnant with my son John and lying down on my back I think we were in someplace very bright, and all of a sudden he started moving. And I realized, baby gets a little bit, he started doing all this kind of stuff, so there is some light, also pre-birth, at least from my experience, not that you needed to know that. But sometimes it doesn't hurt you to get somebody else's framework on these things, but thank you for that. Okay, now, Emily, I'm having trouble with this. Oh, that time it worked, okay. So just take a moment and one minute, I'll set the buzzer. Think of the ways you have seen light the last couple of days. Before? Before you forget what you were just thinking, take about 2 minutes and write as fast as you can what you just were pondering. So on Monday, we looked at encounter. What does it look like? And especially what does that encounter look like in ordinary everyday life? You know, we've been working on liturgical preaching, and in liturgy, there's a moment of encounter. But in ordinary life, outside of liturgy, and our liturgy also is ordinary in a lot of ways. What does encounter look like in everyday life? Doesn't necessarily look like the Rocky Mountains. But what does it look like in ordinary life? Let's ponder that a little bit, because that also impacts how you preach. In preaching, you want to gather up the memories of everyday life into your homily so that people recognize that God is present, not just at that moment when they receive the Eucharist, not just at that moment when you gather together, but God is with them moment by moment by moment. Father Robert mentioned similar to that, kind of evoked that for me in his homily about the bell that rang every hour to let you know you are not alone. Maybe there's a reason why babies wake up other mothers over and over again in the night. Maybe they need to know that they're not alone. That moment of light is a big shock sometimes. In everyday life, what does encounter look like? And so from picking up from Emily said last night, one of the things to recognize is you're coming at your homily and at your interaction with your people from your own lens. How do you see? To become more self-aware that I have been shown and I see in a particular way. When God speaks to Deacon Norm, God is speaking to Deacon Norm. When God touches Father Leo, both Father Leos are right in line here. God touches Father Leo. When God speaks to Jane, God is speaking to Jane. God is very particular. He does speak to all of us, but particularly to you, to me, to each of us. And so recognize that you have your own lens. I was grateful for Suzanne to point out that I often talk about gardens. I have my own lens, don't I? Often I have either a nature or a plant metaphor. It's good for me to recognize that some of you don't are not interested in mountains or gardens or snow or skiing. It's like, what? How can anybody not be interested in those things? That's my lens, right? And it's been my lens ever since I sort of met God in the sandbox at age 4, right? I was outside and I was in the sunshine, and that's how God spoke to me at what I remember as my earliest encounter. Sitting in a sandbox in a tire, surrounded, because it was my grandpa's tire, surrounded by love and the sunshine just shining on me, and I felt someone was there. That's my lens, right? I mean, that's how God speaks to Carla, who didn't used to be Bellinger, right? God speaks to you. Be aware you have your own lens. It's a beautiful lens because God gave it to you, right? And when I coached cross country, there's an old adage, train your weaknesses and race your strengths. And that's a good one also for homiletics. Train your weaknesses and raise your strengths. Your strengths or whatever is your lens. Doesn't hurt to train the things you don't see, but as you're doing your homily, you'll see very often who you are comes through, and it should, because people are looking for you to speak to them. I was really grateful last summer when Father Mike Ignatius, we are missing here, raised his hand because Deacon John had told me, Carla, give him to Carla the theologian. Don't give him so much Carla the mother or the gardener. I said, okay, John. And then, so I was doing the Carla the theologian, right? And Mike Ignatius said, and where are the stories of your grandchildren? I was like, oh, okay. There's a different feedback from a different person, right? So anyway, just be aware of your lens, because as you were talking last night about multicultural, different perspectives, Catholic preaching is intrinsically cross-cultural. Even those of you who are Anglo preachers preaching to Anglo congregations. Look at that congregation. That's a daily mass congregation, and you know, the average age there is about 82. Right? How many of you are 82?
How many of us feel 82?
Well, that's a different story. You don't know what it's like necessarily to be 82 or 92, right? They say, of course, all statistics are made up on the spot, but something like 50 or 60% of people in your pews have back pain. How many of you have back pain? So you know what I'm talking about. If your homily goes over 25 minutes, back pain gets like exponentially worse, right? You need to stand up. You need to move around. This is a picture of Bishop Kelly at our graduation mass for the last cohort. We were at the Basilica of the Sacred Heart at Notre Dame. And I loved Bishop Kelly dearly, and all of you in Dallas, I know, dearly miss him. But as he's preaching in the Basilica of Notre Dame, he's not the same person as those who are sitting in the pew. An ordained bishop or priest or deacon, you have life experiences that in many ways actually create a cross-cultural kind of preaching. You're a priest. You're a deacon. Now, deacons spent a long time in the pews, right? As a lay person. But just by the fact of your ordination, you are speaking cross-culturally, especially to the women and the children, right? You don't necessarily, I shared with you what it's like as a pregnant woman to be in the sun, right? There's a baby going, bloop, 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 right? That may not be your experience. How many of you, that was your experience? Right? No? Suzanne, anybody? Okay, nobody. All right, that's a Carla experience. So just be aware that you have your own lens and you're preaching cross-culturally every time you preach. Different ethnicities of preachers from other countries, other states. Those of you who are preaching in Texas and you were raised in Pittsburgh, you're preaching cross-culturally. I've moved 24 times in my life, and so everywhere I go, I'm always a stranger. And when I close my eyes, I'm home. But when I open my eyes, it's like, where the heck am I today? So my whole entire life, I have been speaking cross-culturally, I feel like. And as I'm in a room with mostly guys, I'm speaking cross-culturally. I'm a woman speaking to you, right? I don't know what it's like to be a man. I was raised with 4 brothers. I went to forestry school with all guys. I coached boys soccer. It's kind of like God prepared me to speak to men because I was raised with all men. But I'm still not a man. I don't know what it's like to be a man. I don't know what it's like to be a priest. I don't know what it's like to be a deacon. Right? So just be aware you have a lens and that you're preaching cross-culturally. Your experience is not their experience. But there are also similarities in experience that you can tap into. My description of a baby moving in the womb probably isn't one you can tap into. But you can go, oh, wow, cool. Yeah, that's nice. Now I have a video, I'm hoping it's gonna work. That a researcher created through Google Notebook. And I'd like you to watch it, assuming that it works, right? Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. There it goes.
You're in ministry. If you're a preacher.
Oh, they don't see it.
Okay, I need to turn it up.
No, they don't see it.
How could you not see it? It's right here.
Maybe
Okay.
close out the
What do I need?
PowerPoint.
What?
Like reduce the PowerPoint and close it out to see if it'll switch screens. Okay, now they see
Close
you.
that. Okay, we'll close that. Let's see if it works.
No.
Come.
Oh yeah.
Nope. Okay,
Yes.
can you see it?
Yes.
You got it? Okay, now let me turn it up. It's already up. All right, I'm gonna start it. You tell me if you can hear it, okay? Is there a volume there? Yeah, that's the hell.
Cares about the next generation of the church. And this is for you.
Yeah.
Ministry. If you're a preacher or really anyone who cares about the next generation of the church, then this is for you. We're going to dive into a tough reality today. Our young people are in the middle of a serious and very unique crisis. But more than just diagnosing the problem, we're going to talk about how we can and must resolve. This statement right here really sets the stage for everything we're about to discuss. It doesn't pull any punches. It calls this what it is, an existential crisis. But, and this is the important part, it doesn't leave us there in despair. It gives us a challenge and a real sense of hope. This can be fixed. So here's our game plan. First, we'll look at why this generation is on the brink. Then we'll dig into the crisis of trust that's come out of that. After that, we'll uncover a surprising yearning for connection, explore how we can earn their trust through empathy, and wrap up with a direct challenge for all of us in the church. All right, let's jump in. It's really tempting to just write this all off as, kids being kids or typical teenage angst. But the reality is the data shows that something fundamentally different and frankly much more alarming is happening with Gen Z. I mean, just think about what it's like to be them. This is the first generation in history to grow up with a 24/7 front row seat to the culture wars, all of it amplified by social media. They were literally born into a world of digital division where all the core assumptions about faith, about family, about country are just constantly under attack. It's one thing for us as adults to try and navigate that noise. It's something else entirely when that's all you've ever known. And this isn't just a feeling, you can see it right here in the data. What's so wild about this chart is that it completely flips historical trends on their head. It used to be that the youngest and the oldest generations had the highest well-being. Well, not anymore. Gen Z scores are so alarmingly low that the researchers behind this study concluded that we are in a national mental health emergency. So you have to ask, what happened? Well, this timeline points to a pretty major suspect. You can see the decline in teen happiness and self-esteem started to absolutely plummet right around 2012. And what else happened in 2012? It was the first year that over half of Americans owned a smartphone. The great irony is that this world of constant digital connection has actually led to a massive decrease in real-world connection. It's replaced things like sports and just hanging out with friends with screen time that all too often just breeds alienation. So it makes sense that this crisis in well-being leads directly to another one, a profound crisis of trust. When you feel like the ground is constantly shifting beneath your feet, you look for something, anything to hold on to. But Gen Z has been taught to be skeptical of all of it. And that includes us, the church. Just look at these numbers. On a 10-point scale, not a single one of our major institutions even gets a passing grade. In organized religion, we're sitting there at a 4.9, right in the middle of this sea of distrust. So it's not just that young people are skeptical of the church, it's that they're skeptical of, well, pretty much everything. And this is where it becomes an urgent 5-alarm fire for the church. You'd think that in a time of crisis, people would turn to faith for answers, but we're seeing the opposite. De-churching, people actively leaving organized religion, is actually speeding up. And the decline is steepest among 18 to 25-year-olds. They are, right now, the fastest growing group of knowings, those who claim no religious affiliation at all. If you need one single number to understand the scale of the disconnect, here it is, 8%. That's the percentage of young people who are actually affiliated with a religion who say they could go to a religious leader for advice. Just let that sink in. Even of the kids who are in our churches, more than 90% don't see the leaders there as a place to turn for help. Okay, so it would be really easy to stop right there and just throw our hands up in the air. But if we did that, we'd miss the most important part of this whole story. Because buried underneath all that skepticism and all that pain, there is a deep, deep yearning and a massive opportunity. This really is the critical question, isn't it? When we look at numbers like these, is it just time to admit defeat? Well, the data says the answer to that is a resounding no. Because look at this. This is what's so fascinating. Despite all that low institutional trust, almost half of young people, and that includes those with no affiliation, still believe attending religious services is important. Most consider themselves at least a little bit religious. They're sort of stuck in this space between belief and unbelief, and they are starving for stability and for real, authentic connection. They are not lost. They're waiting. So the question becomes, how do we build that bridge to them? And the answer isn't a flashier youth group or a better concert. The key is earning back their trust. And the currency we have to use to do that is empathy. Which brings us to this absolutely crucial idea of relational authority. You see, for older generations, a title like father or pastor, it came with a certain amount of built-in authority. For Gen Z, that is completely gone. Authority and trust are not a given. They have to be earned, and are earned through showing a real, genuine willingness to understand, to listen, and to care. For them, who you are matters so much more than what you know. So what does that actually look like? Well, it starts with listening. And I don't mean listening where you're just waiting for your turn to talk. I mean real empathetic listening. It means starting by acknowledging that, yes, their world is different from the one we grew up in. It means engaging with genuine questions, not just prepackaged answers. And maybe most importantly, it means creating space for them to speak without jumping in to correct them. And if you ever doubt that this kind of relational connection makes a difference, just look at this. The impact is absolutely staggering. Among young people without a single trusted adult mentor in their life, only half of them say their life has meaning and purpose. But introduce just 2 to 4 trusted adults into their lives, and that number skyrockets to 85%. This isn't just a nice idea. It's a life-changing and maybe even life-saving intervention. All right, so let's bring this all home. With everything we've seen, what does this actually mean for us, for the church? What is the clear path forward? Well, the data points to exactly where we're falling short. Even in parishes that are actively trying to improve their preaching, the ratings they get for homilies are the absolute lowest among 12 to 25-year-olds. So the primary method we're using to communicate the faith is the least effective with the very audience we desperately need to reach. So earning their trust back is going to demand a fundamental shift from us. It means wrapping every bit of education in compassion. It means focusing less on the what of the rules and way more on the why behind the life of faith. It means prioritizing authentic relationships over perfect programs, and it means showing a real, tangible commitment to meeting their unique needs right where they are. Ultimately, it really all comes down to this. Gen Z is not a problem that we need to solve. They are a generation that needs to be loved, to be listened to, and to be walked with. The future of our church is, without a doubt, in their hands. The real question this research leaves for each of us is a personal one. Will we be in theirs?
So before you forget, write down what's stuck for you in this video. Just write it down so you don't forget. Let's unpack this a little bit. What stuck out for you?
It didn't say it, but it's what the message I got was like, I need more elbow time with Gen Z and Gen Alpha.
Mhm.
So I just don't have that because I'm running this huge parish, right? So cause I can't listen and be empathic and preach in a way that relates to them if I don't have that elbow time with them.
And if you haven't met them, how can you talk to them? Yeah. Okay, others? Yes.
If I recall, it's only 8% of young people said that they would approach someone at their church with a problem. Right?
Speak to a church leader, felt comfortable.
Yeah, but include across every level of leadership, youth group, all.
Mhm.
That's pretty stuff.
The trust level is just not there. Yeah.
Yeah, this actually brought to light some of the things that I've encountered with the St. Joseph group.
Well, let me give you.
One of the things that I
when we were doing the ratings for the St. Joseph group, I was getting good grades for people my age and for more of the, older groups as well. But when it came to the 18 to 35 years, I was getting really low grades. And, when I engaged, started conversing with them, I asked myself, what am I missing? What is it that I'm not, bringing out? And one of the things that they mentioned was your visuals. We don't see any visuals. We don't, we're a visual group. They referenced, the story of, oh my gosh, I think of it, the whole, Hobbits, the,
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings, they mentioned Lord of the Rings. And they said, there's a moment there where, they're rising. And they said, you describe that for us. Give us a moment like that where we can see it. And so I shifted the next homily that I did, I shifted it towards more visuals and more symbolic, and the ratings went up. But funny thing happened, the other side went down, you lost me. So there's a balance there somewhere, and so maybe that's where you gotta figure it out.
When we, not from this cohort, I have a chart that I couldn't find to put up here, but the video did allude to it. Our parish survey ratings, those who were the oldest thought Father was and Deacon was doing pretty well. 55 to 65, they really thought you were wonderful. And then it went down, and then there's the 12 to 25, and it was less than 40% could give a good rating. So the kids are not the 60-year-olds. Right? There's a difference. What else stood out for you, for all of you, or one of you?
What stood out for me was kind of hearing the reasons for their cynicism and skepticism that I never really thought about them being raised in a culture where they're 24/7 of just social media, of just all these different things being thrown out on all sides that can be confusing. And what do you believe? What do you think? So you just become skeptic and cynical. And that really stood out to me, something to think about.
I'm going back to the survey thought, and I'm kind of sad now that our survey is going to be this weekend at our parish, because I wanted, I do work with our youth group, and I wanted to go to the youth group and say, encourage them to participate in the survey to get more feedback, because I know many of them won't. They may help their parents fill it out because their parents can't figure out the QR code, but they won't fill it out themselves. The other thing that kind of, it's just, my mindset, it started out with the kids are not all right. And I immediately stopped at 18. And it didn't, they're talking 12 to 25, and that's a different thing. And so it just made me stop and think about how that, that group is different than I envisioned.
Emily gave me a 10-minute warning, so we got room for one more. You who know this generation,
So I just thought worth mentioning, I preached to seventh grade boys primarily, they're my class. Yeah, the world we live in with social media means that they can also choose what they listen to as we can as adults, but they're not very good at choosing, it turns out, because they're still young. But I think that choice means that if they hear something that they have not chosen to listen to, they're often going to tune out pretty quickly. So you kind of have to know what they're engaging with, and engage with that as well in order to get a foothold in the door. So I would say that learning what they listen to, whether it be music or news or TV shows, I think goes a long way in helping to at least engage with the world that they're encountering. And it's not always easy because it's not what we might choose ourselves. But I think, again, just the worldview, the lens has to be widened in order to understand, where are they coming from, what are they listening to, what are they engaging with, and that will help at least get a foot in the door. Our preaching.
Give an example of one of those.
A good example for me, so I don't really watch a lot of TV or Netflix, but I like Stranger Things, and my boys love that show. So I'm like, oh, okay, I can relate to them in that way, even though I didn't grow up in the '80s. Certainly they did not. But yeah, monsters, things like that, we can kind of tap into that, I think.
So for homily prep, I'm gonna ask you to do an exercise, okay? Those of you who are male, I want you to be a 16-year-old boy. Those of you who are female, I want you to be a 16-year-old girl. And in your chair, I want you to throw your legs out and slouch as much as you can and cross your arms. Okay, push your chairs back, get yourself into a 16-year-old boy or girl slouch. If you're 16-year-old slouch, Emily, 16-year-old does not slouch. So one of you has to be Emily.
No. Okay, I did it.
Oh, you did. Okay, now close your eyes and you're not who you are. Get yourself out of your own lens. Okay, you are a 16-year-old who's inundated with noise and cynicism, and ask yourself as this 16-year-old, where do you see light? Or how do you see light? And then I would ask you in your slumpiest handwriting to write down what a 16-year-old, and this is imaginative, of course, it's going to affect your lens, but just write down your thoughts here. Where might a 16-year-old see or experience light? And I would warrant that where you saw light as a 16-year-old. And for some of you, that's longer ago than for others. Wouldn't be the same as where a 16-year-old sees light at the moment, but just maybe 2 or 3 thoughts. Where might you see light? Yes.
My thought originally just, Carla, never thought about it.
Okay.
Wake up in the morning and there's daylight. If it's dark, I put the light switch.
Never thought about it. Okay. Yep. Could be. Or you're sound asleep and your cell phone starts to glow because somebody at 3 a.m. is texting you. Yeah. Okay. Yes.
So as a 60-year-old boy, praise from mom and dad.
Praise from mom and dad. Good job. Just like Emily's daughter, I'm bragging on her. Her first high school game as a 9th grader, she made 7 soccer goals. Right? Olympic team, here she comes. Now you don't see it, but I see her mom beaming with light over here. Just for me saying that. Yes.
Just the idea, kind of following on that, of just somebody who accepts me for who I am.
And consistently, when I looked at connection with high school kids, the number one person that connected with them was their mom. And consistently, now that was 2011, 2025, that's the mom, for some reason, moms and grandmas come out at the top. I don't know what it is about the mother-child relationship, except maybe they felt them moving before they were born, you know. And then dads come in, and then teachers, youth ministers, coaches come in high. Clergy's a little bit lower than that. But the person in terms of light that connects are usually family members. So, yeah.
The image that came to mind for me was the virtual world.
The virtual world, light in the virtual world?
Whether it's social media, or I think a lot of teenagers get very involved in gaming, and they find maybe that acceptance that we're talking about, or light, by encounters and relationships that are in the virtual world rather than in the material or the physical or the bodily world.
And we just last June did a national study of 1,500 high school students. And we found a kind of a direct discorrelation between how much time they spent in that world and their faith life and their happiness. So it may not be light, many may think it's light. It's also addiction. You know, we have young priests who are addicted to video games, and how does that affect, the light in your life? So that's a complicated one, isn't it? You're the man of complicated questions. Okay, one more? Yes.
16's a big year, driving a car and getting a girlfriend.
Yep, hopefully. Except this generation is not getting the girlfriend like previous generations, nor are they driving a car. The age of car drive licenses has gone way up. Matthew, you're shaking it nodding your head, right? And their interest in having a girlfriend is much lower. Yeah, so, yeah, I used to teach 16-year-olds morality class, and if that isn't a place, high school girls, if that isn't a place to test your preaching and your connection skills, but they would come to Our Lady of the Elms in Akron on a winter morning. This is the first time they'd driven on ice and snow. So the 7:45 class, they were so happy to get into my class and pull out their prayer shawl and light a candle and go, I made it. So, yes. So as we're looking at preacher-listener relationships, and I know I figured Monsignor Steve would love to have a picture of him preaching in the chapel last year. But the movement of the Holy Spirit in the gap there is not something we can control. Right? But we can get to know the one on the other side so that there is a connection in some kind of a way. When you do the wow, cool, yeah, and that's nice. If you can find a common experience that each one has had and move it back up so that you move into their memory to oh yeah, I remember that. That was cool. Wow. Right? Not that I don't know if it was this group. I asked if anybody had never been on a mountain before. It was this group I asked, or the previous cohort. One guy had raised his hand, and I said, "Get him a plane ticket to go see a mountain." But the Holy Spirit does the moving, but to be attentive to the cross-cultural movement, we have to believe that God is also showing our people in the pews. In some way, God has spoken to them. Some way, God is speaking to that 16-year-old. So how do we name it? We have been gifted by this wonder of access to the Holy Spirit, to the presence of God. And somehow we have to put words to that. Not just tell them what we think, what we know, but where in our lives has God been at work? Some of you didn't catch Deacon Darrell's homily this morning, but I loved how much he named the agency and presence of God. In terms of geography in your homily, how much time are you given to God? Deacon Darrell, where is he? There you are. He gave half of his homily to talking of God. And it has a way of picking up your heart. For those of you who didn't hear it, ask him about his tofu reflection, because it was wonderful. God was given plenty of space. So we're going from our encounter to their encounter. So we're going to get into looking at your homilies or constructing your homilies, but ask yourself, how much space have you given to God? And how much of your homily talks about the one who is real and not just an idea? How much space have you given to God? And how much of the reality of God are you teaching?
No, the supplies. Or no, they're here. Maybe they can grab one on the way.
So at this point, we're going to give you all the supplies that you ever wanted to make this lovely piece of artwork that I made for you. Yes. We're going to give you a piece of string. In your rooms there, or maybe we'll just give a piece of string to your coaches. But you're going to go with your coaches to your coaching room and start to take all the thoughts you've been working on, whether it's when you were doing Lectio Divina with the Old Testament or the New Testament or the Psalm presentation. You got all of these thoughts, and we're going to give you until Mass time to start to pull them together. Start to create them into moves. There's plenty of paper for you to cross off, slay your darlings, murder those things that don't need to be in there. But at this point, just start scribbling it down and get it onto a form where you think you might be going. So your little post-its are for introduction, conclusion, transitions, like Father Ed talked about yesterday. Your big post-its of many colors are for the moves or the major movements you're going to make. Okay, questions, thoughts about, and I will give you, I think we'll give you lots of tape because it looked like yesterday that these moves had a way of kind of crashing to the floor and need to be taped up. So, okay, here are the locations. Oh boy, oh boy. Steve Basso's coachees, you've already been in Villa A, most of you, right, where you'll be. Bill Eckert's coachees will be in Villa B. Ed Griswold's coachees will be in Villa C. Let me give you a caveat. If you are a Cindy person, but you are under Steve, Bill, Mike, or Ed's coaching, all right, how many, who is that? There's three of them. There's one, there's two. No, not Suzanne. You're not one of them. Raise your hand if you're one of Cindy's coaching. Okay, there should be six. The three of you who have Suzanne for coaching will go with Suzanne. The three of you who do not have Suzanne for coaching will go with you. Okay, so that would be Deacon David and this the other one. And yeah, Deacon Omar, and there should be one more. Okay, all right, good. And so we're splitting those up in half. So those of you that Dr. Suzanne is coaching, will go with Suzanne. Those that Suzanne is not coaching, but will be. That makes sense? Okay, so my keepers group will be in the Wisdom Center. That's here. My group will be in the Kelly Center, and Dr. Suzanne's group will be in the chapel in the downstairs room. Does that make sense?
So where is your group?
My group is in the Kelly Center. No, we go eat food.
One string, one big.
Each person is gonna need a string. Maybe the coaches can bring the strings, otherwise it's gonna be a mess. Logistically, all teachers know you have to add another 10 minutes or 15 minutes for all this logistics stuff. And take a bunch of pads of paper and various colors and some Post-it notes, all right? So coaches can come fight over it, and the rest of you can get a break and a coffee and head up to the room where you are. We'll have mass at 11:30, and then we will pray together and we'll rejoice. Right? Let's have a closing prayer for this